Hey everyone, and welcome to the start of another reading vlog. It is currently Monday, so happy Monday. If you are watching this on Monday, it is also day one of the Do the Thing-a-thon readathon, which I've had to practice saying that a few times because I keep saying Do the Thing-a-thon, which is not the name of the readathon. But for anyone who doesn't know, this is a readathon that's hosted by Ashley from A Frolic Through Fiction. I'll leave a link to the announcement video in the description if you wanted to find out more, but obviously by the time this reading vlog goes live, the readathon will have ended. But the whole idea behind the readathon is that you do the thing that you've been putting off doing for a while. So for example, if there are any books that you've been wanting to read for a while that have been on your TBR for a pretty long time, then it's a good opportunity to finally read them. I actually made a video at the start of the year with 10 series that I really want to start this year, and so far I've started one of them and finished it though, to be fair. So I was going to say I'm not doing too bad, but I mean 1 out of 9. 1 out of 9? 1 out of 10 is not the best. So one of the series on that list was The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. So that is my main goal for this week, is to finally read The Poppy War. And I'm very excited because this is one of my 5-star predictions. I did actually read the first chapter of this book a few months ago. I did a try a chapter challenge and I enjoyed that first chapter. I liked the writing style, so my expectations for this book overall are pretty high. My cousin actually read it last week, I think it was, or the week before, and she's been messaging me ever since saying, have you read The Poppy War yet? Have you started it yet? Obviously I haven't because I've been saving it for this readathon, but if you're watching this, Laura, I'm finally doing it. I'm going to read The Poppy War. I will let you know what I think of it. So that's my main goal for this week. I am also listening to The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue on audiobook, and I've been listening to it for over a month now. I started it at the end of April, I think it was. But because I had an ear infection at the start of this month, there was a 2-week period where I couldn't really listen to audiobooks. I mean, I could while I was like cooking and cleaning, but I usually listen to audiobooks while I'm out walking, and I couldn't use headphones for 2 weeks. So hopefully I will also finish that this week. I've got, I think, about 5 hours left on the audiobook and I'm enjoying it so far. It's an alright story. The first half, I think, or the first third was kind of boring, and I think that's why I struggled to get through it, because it felt very repetitive. But this is another 5-star prediction, so I am hoping that I'm going to enjoy it overall. But yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say in this intro. I need to go because I have a doctor's appointment in 20 minutes and I don't want to be late. So I will catch up with you later once I have reading updates. Good morning. So I ended up reading more than I thought I would last night because I was watching the sprints on Ashley's channel, and apparently the way to get me to read is reading sprints, which who would have thought? But I am now about 100-ish pages into The Poppy War, which according to my Kindle is around 20% of the way through. I never know how accurate the page count on my Kindle is, but I'm pretty sure that this book is around 500 pages long, so 100 pages would be around 20%, I think. I don't know, but I don't think I actually explained what this book is about, so I should probably do that. The story basically follows a girl called Rin, who is a war orphan, and she lives with her guardians in this village, and her guardians are pretty awful. They don't treat her very well, and they're trying to marry her off to this much older man who is like 3 times her age, which Rin obviously doesn't want, and so she convinces them to let her take this exam, where if she passes this exam, she'll get into her country's most prestigious military academy, and they agree because no one expects her to actually do well. It's really, really hard to get into this academy, but you do learn at the end of the first chapter that she has got into this school, and so the rest of the book that I've read so far, you follow her as she starts school and you follow her through her classes, and you see the way that her classmates and even some of her teachers are very prejudiced against her because of where she's from. The plot is moving quite quickly, and so I have found it quite easy to get into. I really like the setting of this magic school, or military school I think is probably more accurate. I mean, there might be magic, I don't know yet, I'm not that far in. The only thing I am struggling with at the moment is the world building, and especially the history of this world, because it's very info dumpy in places. And the only way I can think to describe it, the only example I can think of, is that Rin will be in a class and one of her teachers will be explaining something that happened many, many years ago, one of the previous Poppy wars, for example, and they'll deliver it as this huge monologue. So you'll get paragraphs and paragraphs of just text, and I'm finding it really hard to follow. But I have heard that it gets a little easier as the book goes on, and I'm hoping that because that knowledge is now in there somewhere, I'm hoping that as I get further into the book, if something does become more relevant, then I will still be able to remember what it's referring to, if that makes sense. Hello, so it is a little bit later, and I've been reading some more of The Poppy War this evening, and I'm really starting to enjoy this book. It's very compelling, I think is the word that I want to use to describe it. It's the kind of book that when I'm reading it, I'm really struggling to put it down. It's been a while since I've read a book like that, so really liking this so far. The only thing I will say is that I'm struggling a little bit with the ebook, because I think it would be easier if I had the physical copy so I could refer back to the map easier, if that makes sense. There's certain parts of the geography that I'm not quite grasping, but it's not massively affecting my enjoyment, and I'm really liking the characters in this. I don't know whether like is the right word though. The characters are very interesting, and I'm enjoying reading about them and following them, and I think their character development so far has been done really well. So that's my update for The Poppy War. I have also made a little bit of progress on The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I think I'm on chapter 80-ish now, and there's 111 chapters in the book according to the audiobook on Scribd. I think I mentioned earlier that I did struggle a little bit with this book in the beginning, and I don't know whether it's because the hype got to me. I mean, this is the kind of book where when it came out, I saw so many people giving it 5 stars, and it was all over BookTube and Bookstagram. Everyone was talking about it and saying how amazing it was, and I can see why. It's a very beautifully written book, and the story is definitely unique, but I don't think it's going to be 5 stars for me. I think it's going to be a 3 or a 4 stars maybe, depending on how it ends. For anyone who doesn't know, this book basically follows a girl called Addie LaRue who makes a deal to live forever, but the consequence of that is that she can never be remembered and she can never make a mark on the world. And so there's 2 different timelines. You follow Addie in the past and you see her life, and then there's also a timeline in the present day where she meets someone who does remember her. The main issue that I've had with this book is that I don't really care about Addie, and she's all right, like she's not a horrible person or anything, but because she's the main focus of the book, I am struggling a little bit to keep my attention on the book. However, I do really like the timeline in the present day, and especially the person that she meets who can remember her. That whole storyline is really interesting. So, like I said, it's probably not going to be a new favourite, but I do like the audiobook. The audiobook is really good. I think the tone that the narrator has set is just setting the scene quite well, and it does match the book quite well. I think the way that I would describe it is that it's very melancholy and it's coming across very biographical. So in that sense, I would recommend the audiobook, I think, if you are planning on reading this. If you like audiobooks though, obviously. So I have now reached part 2 of The Poppy War, and I have many thoughts because Rin as a character is really complicated, and I think I'm accepting why she is the way that she is, but I don't fully understand her. She has this drive and this thirst for power, and I don't really get where that's coming from. I mean, maybe it's just part of her personality, but I have found that there's certain parts where I feel like it's a little bit rushed and where certain things are being skimmed over, where I would like just a little more detail. What I am liking is that as the book has been progressing, there's been this growing sense of tension, because there's this tension that's growing between the different provinces. And I have seen quite a few reviews for this book, so I am anticipating that at some point the tone is going to change and there's going to be more of a focus on war, because I mean the book is called The Poppy War, so I think that that is to be expected. Also, we have been learning a little more about the magic system, so I'm really interested to see how that develops over the course of the book. I feel like I haven't updated this vlog in a while, when in reality it's been like 2 days, I think. Hello, Happy Friday. No, not happy Friday. It's not Friday yet. It's my Friday though, because it's Thursday and I don't work Fridays. So I am ready for a long weekend because it's also a bank holiday on Monday. So I don't think I'm actually doing anything exciting apart from reading, which can be exciting. But yeah, what was I saying? It's been a really, really busy week with work. I actually went into the office today for the first time in over a year, which was very surreal, but it was nice to see some of my work friends and catch up. And I mean, obviously we still talk on Teams and stuff, but it was just nice to be out of the house. And it also meant that I could listen to my audiobook on the way there and on the drive home. So I think I only have about 40 minutes left of Addie LaRue and still really enjoying this. I think I mentioned that I have enjoyed the book more as it's gone on. And I think what's really adding to my enjoyment is the narration, because the narrator's doing a really good job of switching between the different emotions, and especially the last few chapters have been very heavy on the emotion. I do think that I've predicted how it's going to end though, and I might be wrong, because what I've found is throughout the book I've thought that I've predicted something and then it turns out that I'm only half right. And so I'm wondering whether that's going to happen with the ending, whether I have actually worked out what's going to happen, or whether I've only worked out half of it, if that makes any sense. But yeah, I should finish it tonight actually. Haven't read any more of the Poppy War, by the way, but I am planning to do some reading tomorrow on my day off. So hopefully I'll get a good chunk of it read then. Hello and happy Friday. It is actually Friday and I'm feeling really hyper, although I don't know whether I'm hyper or whether it's just because I had a couple of cocktails tonight and it's got a little bit to my head, I'm not gonna lie. But I've just got home, I went out for food tonight with my mum, which was really, really lovely. I haven't been to a restaurant in nearly a year, I think. I think it was last summer, the last time I actually went out properly for food. So that was really nice. We went to this little independent place that's just down the road and they do the most amazing tapas, like so good. And they do lots of vegetarian and vegan options as well, which I always like because I don't eat meat. So yeah, there was a point actually to this update. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, I finished Addie LaRue this morning and I really enjoyed it overall. I was right about the ending in the I guessed part of it, but not the full picture. I ran it through Corpile and it came out as a 7 out of 10, which is the equivalent of 4 stars. And I would agree with that. I think enjoyment wise, it was probably a 3.5. I liked the atmosphere and I liked the writing, but I didn't fall in love with the characters and it didn't have that emotional impact on me that I was expecting. But I would still recommend it if you're interested in the story and you don't mind a slower paced book, because I would say that this book was very slow in places, especially in the beginning. I always feel weird recommending books that are really popular because I feel like so many people already have read it. And I feel like if you were actually interested in this book, then you probably would have read it already. But if you haven't and you're on the fence and you're not really sure, then I would say go for it. Like I said, I enjoyed it. But I think that because I set my expectations at a certain level, it meant that I didn't feel disappointed. Hey everyone, so I am now about 60% of the way through the Poppy War, and I thought now would be a really good time to just quickly summarise what I'm enjoying and what I'm not enjoying so much, and just generally what I think so far. What I'm really liking is the magic system, and also the battle scenes in this book are incredible. They're written in a way where the scene feels very visual in my mind and it really, really comes to life. I feel like I'm there with the characters and I'm experiencing what they're experiencing and how brutal it is. There was a part in the middle where the plot shifted and I didn't mind the direction that the book went in. I'm actually really enjoying this second half. But the way that it happened felt very jarring and very sudden. It was almost like the plot was one step ahead of me and I was constantly trying to rush to catch up. I think I did touch on this earlier, but I keep going back and forth on how I feel about Rin, because in the beginning, I really liked her. Even though she's not the most likeable person, I really liked her drive drive and how things don't come easily to her. She does really have to work for it. But then again, there was this shift around halfway through where I started to really be a little bit confused on her motivations. The book in general is set over several years, but there was this time jump partway through that wasn't really a time jump, but there was a 2-year period, I think, that happened within the space of a few chapters, and it was just, yeah, a little bit jarring. My cousin has just finished book 2 and she said that she enjoyed it a lot more. So considering that I am enjoying this first book, it feels like a very solid 4 stars at the moment if I had to make a prediction. I am really interested to see how this book ends though, and how it sets things up for the next book. So I've just started part 3 of the Poppy War, and obviously I don't want to go into spoilers in this vlog because I do want to keep this vlog spoiler free. But if you've read this book, then you might know what part I'm at. I have seen quite a lot of reviews for this book, so to a certain extent I did know what to expect, and I think it's really important if you're planning to read this book to know that certain events are inspired by actual real history. And I think it's also really important to know that there are some very serious trigger warnings for this book. And so yeah, that last chapter was really intense, and I was going to try and finish this book tonight, but I think because it's getting quite late now, I might take a break and then pick it up again in the morning. Hey everyone, so I finished reading The Poppy War this morning and I'm going to give it 4 stars. I really enjoyed the end of this book, and I do think that the book got better as it went on. There were moments towards the end of this book that felt like 5 stars and that I thought were really well written. However, because I didn't have that feeling consistently throughout the book, and I've mentioned in this vlog already that I did have a few issues with it, especially in the beginning, so I don't feel like I can give it 5 stars overall. I think the main issue that I had was with the pacing, but I don't know whether that's the right word to describe it, because I would say that the book was consistently fast-paced throughout, but the timeline of the events and how they happened was very inconsistent and very jarring. For example, the very first chapter covers 2 years, and then there's a bit in the middle that covers 1 year, and it's quite a large chunk of the book. And then you have another little section that covers 2 years, and then the end of the book I think covers about a few months or even a few weeks. And so that's the only way I can think to describe it, is that there were these sudden time jumps that seem to break up the flow. But this book is a military fantasy, and I think the way the book built up this atmosphere of war and the way that the characters reacted to certain situations, I think that was really well written. I think that if the second book continues in the same way that the first book ended, then it has a potential to be 5 stars. I think I might actually start the Dragon Republic tonight, which I don't usually do. Usually when I read series, I finish the first book and then I take a little bit of a break before I start the second book, but I feel like I want to go straight into it, so yeah. But I think that brings me to the end of the reading vlog, because it's 4 o'clock on Sunday now and I don't think I'm going to read anything more by the end of tonight. So that is the end of Do the Thing-a-thon, not Do the Thing-a-thong. If you've read either of the books that I talked about in this vlog, then let me know in the comments what you thought of them, and let me know as well if you were also taking part in Do the Thing-a-thon. Let me know what books you read and what you thought of them, and yeah, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and click subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you next time. Bye.